I said that. There's no reason I should have said that. Matter of fact, you should damn well worry, right? Absolutely. Before we get this week underway, it is the new week, right? Well, before we get this week underway, I'm going to have to salute one of the great qualities that America holds above and beyond most other countries. Would you please give me a little of that romantic music element, please? Yes, I must salute the American society, of which we are all a part of, for one of the great qualities that it does not share with many other parts of the world. It's a totally romantic country in many very basic ways. And one of the most interesting basic ways of its romanticism is that America is one of the few countries that, bring it up there a little bit there, we have Mr. Toscanini here conducting for us. Yes, that's very good. It's the only country in the world that really believes that it can get damn near anything out of a book. Now that's a romantic idea. If you can get the right book, everything is going to come together, right? I mean, you know, if you get the right diet book, you're going to lose 175 pounds. You get the right book on sex techniques, and your life will be just incredible at that point. That's a romantic idea. We're going to be out there, please. Okay, all right. We're going to use that a little bit later there, Al, please. Just use that a little bit later. I'd like to salute, just remember a few years ago, it just seems like yesterday, that you can tell what's happening in the country by what's happening in the book world. When you stand there and you look at the books in the bus station, places like that, where you see all these paperbacks. Just a few years ago, you remember all the books that used to say, "How to make $1 million in 5 minutes on the stock market." You saw that. Remember those books? You don't see many of those anymore, do you? There used to be, there used to be others that said, retire with your golden dream with $7,000 a month with a few easy investment tips. Here's a young man who at the age of 15 became a multimillionaire. You remember those? Now, that was another time. That was called affluence. Already we're getting a little bit nostalgic about the days of affluence. You remember those good old days? Oh, my God, they're great days. In fact, to get very, very relevant. Oh, by the way, somebody wrote me and said, Shepard, what is the word for this year? He says, every year we have new words. Like a few years ago, the word was groovy. Far out was a couple of years ago. I'd say that this year's word is put it on. Get it on. You can use one or the other, depending on he's really getting it on. That's this year's word. So you'll hear this constantly, getting it on, You hear this, you always hear in the interviews on TV, people like Linda Elderby is in interviewing a rock star who's getting it on somewhere, You remember when they used to put it all together? Remember that? Well, now you get it on. So that's, I would say, at this moment in time, that is the word for today. So if you can get out there in the street and say, "Hey, I'm getting it on," you'll establish your credentials as being, shall we say, in tune, au courant. We refer to the early French there, which has nothing to do with a bun with currents, but it has in a sense. But we don't want to get into that. However, I will say how. Right at this point, that the nostalgia that many people are feeling for the days of affluence is already beginning to settle in. You can see it all around you. But yet, on the other hand, are you aware that places like Palm Beach, places like Miami Beach, Fort Lauderdale, Nassau, places like that, in other words, resorts, are having an absolutely unparalleled season. Did you know that, Al? Incredible. And recently there was a study made on that. The guy went down a couple of psychological testing type places, found out that why they were down there was because it's the last hurrah syndrome that a lot of people figure that. See, that's part of our curious national attitude that there is no tomorrow, there is no yesterday, there is only now. So they're blowing it all on one trip to Disneyland, thereby ensuring that there's no tomorrow. However, that's what we call the self-fulfilling prophecy. However, this is beginning to happen all over. That the people are really going a little bit ape. You know, do you remember a book that was written, a novel? It was written by Neville Shute. Neville Shute, who is an Australian writer. Neville Shute wrote a book that was made into a movie starring, I believe, Gregory Peck and Ava Gardner. Do you know the name of the movie? Occasionally it shows up on television. It was a big deal movie back in the early 60s when everybody was walking around with buttons that said ban the bomb. The what? What? That is correct. On the Beach. Now, why did I bring that in? All right, because the opening, because unfortunately the movie kind of glossed it over. If you get your literature through movies, the book was had some stuff in it the movies didn't. Among other things, that here the premise of the movie, of course, was that there was an atom bomb. You see that had gone off somewhere tremendous, and the entire world was made uninhabitable by a great, vast, moving cloud of radioactive fallout, and whole countries were disappeared like that. And in fact, it was the end of the world, really, and the only people that were surviving at this point, or at least they thought they were surviving, these guys were in the submarine when this thing went off. So they came up, and all of a sudden they realized that there's no world out there. And they were getting a radio signal. Do you recall a radio signal that seemed to come intermittently? And it turns out that what it was a Coke bottle was rolling around, and it was running into this key and sending a signal. But anyway, what was the point of the whole opening chapters there? What was it about, you know? It was about these people. They knew in Australia that this cloud was drifting towards them, and they had just a few hours or days to live. They knew that it was coming. There was no way to get away from it. So what did they do? They had a fantastic orgy of self-indulgence. One guy went out, he took all his savings immediately, and he rushed out and he bought a Ferrari. And these guys were racing these cars all over the landscape like crazy. Nobody cared anymore. They were blowing up and crashing. And it was just a fantastic scene, and based on the last hurrah principle. So there's a lot of that going around. Now, I would like to salute the change in publishing today. You can follow the world by looking at the what they call the exploit books. So back around 1962 or 63, when we were in the middle of the beginnings of the whole big affluent scene, all kinds of books came out telling you that you could make $12 million, make money on the stock market, how to invest all that money you're making into gold gilt-edged debentures and all that. Those were really big books. And a lot of authors became very big, or at least they seemed to be big. They were being interviewed all over the place on those books. Let's put it this way. The self-appointed expert suddenly appears at any given time, turns out a paperback, sells 12 billion copies, and then disappears. Now, what is the newest one? Here's a great one. The Out-of-Work book. It's a workbook, a handbook on how to survive the Depression, which they are telling you. Almost all these books, by the way, are based on a scare tactic. Anytime you see one of these books, like, for example, a diet book always scares you. It says, it is a well-known fact that anybody that is over 3 pounds overweight will die within 5 minutes of not taking this advice. That's and so oh God, they read this stuff. The other scare tactic during the days when it was affluent, they says Look at where will you be when your friends are all millionaires? They've invested their money in tax-free city bonds and all that stuff, and you haven't done it. And you'll be down there living in Palm Beach, just eking out a crummy little living when you finally retire. Where will you be? And so they tell you got to be a millionaire, to really make it good. So this book opens up with an absolute assurance there is going to be a depression. It says no, some guys are going to survive it, other guys are not. And the guys that survive it are the ones that know how to do all these good things. For example, here are some of the things: how to write a resume. Seems to me that's a little after the fact. If you've gotten to the point where you're about to be fired and you haven't written a resume, I don't know. Here's another one: how to adjust your lifestyle so that you can adjust to being out of work, having no money come in, but you do not have to give up having fun. Now, of course, that defies all known laws of gravity. Depends on how you have fun. I suppose the suggestions are, well, you can walk in the park, you can make a kite out of old newspapers you find, you can fly your kite, you can find string, and various other things you can have fun doing. And here's another one. It says, how to make sure an interviewer offers you the job. Ho, ho, ho. Now that's something good. Would you love to know that? How to make sure? Well, of course, what that is a chapter on hypnosis. It works. You see, if you can hypnotize the interviewer, what you do is you have this little ring. It's got a little thing that goes around, a little light that comes out of it, and you say, "Look into my eyes, interviewer." I kind of like it. I kind of like this book. Here's the ad. It says, "A new report reveals." New report, official report. New report reveals how to stay employed during the Depression. And big headline says, "Don't bet the government will take care of you." Well, that's a promise. And I can bet that right away. That's easy money. But I've seen a lot of these these books. Have you ever read books that came out of the 1930s? That were the same kind? Well, they were different in those days, apparently. See, these I go down to these used bookstores down in the Village a lot, down on 4th Street line. You see all this stuff in these great big bins of old used books, and you see great stuff down there. For example, the other day I was rummaging around, browsing about. How we bookophiles do. Or we bibliophiles. So I'm browsing about down there, and I find this book, and the book was in the 1930s. It says it was like 1936, something like that, and it says how to earn big money making quilts. It says you can take your old clothes and you can make quilts out of them. Then there was another book that says earn big money looking at coins. Says you may have a coin in your pocket, if you got a nickel, you may have a coin in your pocket that is worth over $7,000. I guess that's grasping at straws. Have you ever seen people buy books like that, read those things? As a special public service here, we brought out an old ancient magazine which we found. Now that's redundant, but no, not necessarily. Some magazines are not ancient, and they may be old. This happens to be both. And it's a true pulp magazine, and it was published right in the heart of the Depression, the big Depression. They always talk about. You read the books about and all that stuff, and it was published in 1933. See, it's really great looking, yeah. And it's a Railroad magazine, January of 1933. And you want to hear some of the suggestions that they were making in those days to get a job? Now, of course, this was supposedly the greatest world depression the world has ever known, ever since Samson knocked down the castle there with you remember that, the big scene, Shadrach and all those guys. But here's, for example, now inside this pulp magazine, which was a railroad, there's pulp stories about the railroad world. To begin with, it was a big fat magazine. Shows you how bad things were. 146 pages and sold for a dime. Wow. I mean, you couldn't, it's a pretty valuable magazine, I guess, right now. They're quite rare. But inside, the first page, inside, here is our old friend who's looked out of a million magazines, and he looks very sober and reliable. He's looking right out at you. He says, I will send a sample lesson free to prove that I can train even you at home in your spare time. Of course, in 1933, apparently, a lot of guys had a lot of spare time, but they were being polite, You'd say, since you're sitting on your duff all this time, you might as well do something. It says, be a radio technician. Earn big money. Jobs are now available. And here are some people who took the course. For example, I'd like to talk to some of these guys now. Here, for example, here is Mr. Abel J. Freugner. 300, that sounds like a phony name. It sounds like a name that W.C. Fields would come up with. Abel J. Freugner of 300 West Texas Avenue in Goose Grease, Texas. Oh, there it is. I don't make the news. There it is. He earns $7 a week in his spare time. It says, thank God for the National Radio Institute. I'll quote, thank God for the National Radio Institute. I'm earning up to $7 a week in my spare time repairing my neighbor's super heterodyne and tuned RF type radios. Thank God for your lessons. They was easy to understand and clear and readable. Thank God to you, men. You done a good job with me. That's Abel W. Freugner of 300 West Texas Avenue in Goose Grease, Texas. Now, you think I'm making it up. It's right here. All right, now here's a guy that really hit the big time. This is Theodore K. Dubree of Horsham, Pennsylvania. I wonder if he's out there listening tonight. Theodore K. Dubree, how you doing? It says he earns $8 to $10 a week. He's knocking down the dough faster than he can put it in that old cigar box under his bed. It says here, and now here's what he says. I am engaged in spare time radio work. I average from $5 to $10 a week. I often wish that I had enrolled sooner because of this God-sent extra money I am making, in addition to the $12 a month that I get from the government for being on the WPA. Thank God for what you've done for me. Theodore K. Dubree of Horsham, Pennsylvania. Now, see, friends, if you're depressed out there, you're going to have to start pulling yourself out. What is it? Let's see. You pull yourself up by your what? No, it's not your shoelaces. It's something else. You can't pull yourself out of the mud by your shoelaces, for God's sakes. No, this is an inspirational show we're doing here tonight. This is give me a little romantic music. Come on, we've got to inspire the people. Just a little more there. Yes, this program is being sent to you tonight. For those of you who are out of work, a little inspirational programming here. You too can earn up to $4 to $8 a month in your spare time repairing superheads, like Elkie Smudge of 217 VZ Street, Hattiesburg, Mississippi. Mr. Smudge earned between $4 and $7 a week repairing superheads in his spare time. He now can afford to smoke cigarettes again that have been rolled in the factory. And, my God, things are moving. Now, do you want to hear another one here? Listen to this one now. Oh, this is great. I'd love to take this course. See, the trouble with a lot of you is you have no known talent. You gotta have a specialty in the time of difficulty. Have you heard of a radiologist being out of work recently? Oh, of course not. You don't know. That's right. Is there any analyst out of work around in your neighborhood? Of course not. Who's out of work? Just you, Charlie. Just hangs around the office. No specialty at all. You just do office work. Well, here's a specialty now. Headline says, it shows there's a little drama here in pictures. It's like a little comic strip, but it's beautifully drawn. It's in pictures, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pictures. And the headline reads, Who killed him? Could you have solved this mystery? And here's the mystery. Wealthy Henry Jason lived in his big home alone, except for a maid, a gardener, a chauffeur, and a housekeeper. Oh, that's the kind of fantasies they loved back in those days. Noted for his philanthropies, he had no known enemies. The maid reported stumbling over Jason's body when she started to do the dusting in the library. She told the police Jason had had 3 callers during the morning. His lawyer, a nephew, and a stranger. An autopsy showed poisoning as the cause of death. Who was the poisoner? Now, the first picture shows Jason clasping his head, and he is falling down. You see him falling down. He's got this great-looking tie on. He's falling heavily to the ground. The next picture shows the maid opening the door, and she, too, she's going, ah! You could see her hand is over her mouth. And the third picture there, it shows the maid looking frantic, and she sees a man leaving. She sees him, see? And now we see in the fourth picture, boys and girls, we see Jason lying on the floor, and these two very official-looking men are looking at the body through magnifying glasses, and they're apparently working on what is called in these cases clues. They're very important in mystery cases. Clues. You can't have a good mystery without clues. Do you agree, Al? And now, in the last picture, we see the same man who was there with the eyeglasses and the little dusting powder. He has a light, and he is examining what appears to be fingerprints. And now, underneath this great little set of drawings, we read this caption: there was a single clue, a fingerprint on a glass. Now we see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 fingerprints. It says one of these fingerprints identifies a slayer. Number 1 is nephew. Number 2, attorney. Number 3, gardener. Number 4, maid. Number 5, housekeeper. Number 6, chauffeur. Number 7, that's blank. It has a question mark. It says stranger. Bum, ba-dum, bum. Number 8 is the slayer. Now, all you've got to do is match that 8th one with one of the other 7, and that shows that you, too, can solve mysteries. It says the police found the stranger to be a philanthropic associate of the murdered man who had no objection to being fingerprinted. Fingerprints of other suspects were obtained without the necessity of making routine prints. The Bureau of Identification at police headquarters ordered the arrest of the slayer immediately after checking several index fingerprints with that on the drinking glass. Study and compare. Who did it? Can you do this? If you can earn big money in the police business. There you are. That's a test. If you can do this. You know, this is very much like those match covers. It says, can you draw this? Draw me. Send it in. We'll see if you got any talent. We will tell you if you've got talent. And if you have, you must. You must. After all, Picasso at one time didn't know that he was going to be Picasso. He was just a kid walking around eating Tootsie Rolls. But his talent surfaced, and look at him now. Well, all right. Here we got here. It says 53% of all U.S. identification bureaus employ trained operators. So be a trained operator and big money. You can send for the free copy of the Blue Book of Crime. There is big money in being able to identify fingerprints. They don't tell us who did it, you know, what killer did it. You're supposed to send in. That's your test, see. If you can, if you can. Now, you want to hear some more of these great unbelievable opportunities that are available to everybody. Here's one now, for example. Many of you people probably have envied Norman Mailer. Many of you walked around and said, if Philip Roth can write about his old lady like that, why can't I write about mine? After all, I had a worse mother than Portnoy did. I can write about her. Well, all right, here you go. It says, how do you know you can't write? Have you ever tried? Have you ever attempted even the least bit of training under competent guidance like we are? Or have you been sitting back, just fooling around, trying to get a job, messing around out there, being discouraged at every point, being turned down by prospective employers? Learn to write. Write at home. Earn big money like other big money writers. And it says, here it says big money writers. It shows a whole lot of books in the background of the ad. Say it says Steinbeck, Grapes of Wrath. Just yes, well, that was a big. Well, that was he was the Jacqueline Suzanne of the period. He was making big dough. Now here, for example, shows you the kind of they all came. These ads came complete with testimonials. Now here, for example, it says it shows a man looking very authorish. His picture, he's got highlights and that, looking very bugged. He's just written this scathing satire on Western men. It said, had never written a line. Sells article before completing course. You want to hear what he says? He says, before completing your wonderful correspondence course, I sold a feature to Screenland magazine for $24. That resulted in immediate assignments to do another for the same magazine. After gaining confidence, I am now a top flight writer, and I do not wish to have my name used in your publication because all of your... See? It's fantastic. Look at that. You can then, it says send in a coupon there, and you'll become a writer. Now, there you've had 2 chances right there. A writer, you could... 3 chances, really. You could have made money being a writer. You could be a cop walking around with a magnifying glass. And you could have been, well, you could have done, you know, been a radio technician. Now, let's see what else we have here. No, I don't want to join the Rosicrucians. That's always pretty good, though. Let's see. Here's one for you. Hi, George. Earned big money selling electric trains door to door. How do you like that one? Did you know that Lionel at one time had guys that went around selling electric trains door to door? I could see the... Hello? The door opens. Yeah! So, just curious whether you'd like to buy an electric train here. I'm selling them door to door. What the hell is this? Electric train? Boom. All right, I'm going to ask you a question now, if you guys are interested in that curious world of self-help. What radio comic at one time, you know, you guys are all into radio comic, where the guy, he was a traveling salesman, or door-to-door salesman, and the show would open up with him knocking on the door. He'd go like this. Nobody at home. I hope. Nobody at home. I hope. Who was that? It was based on this kind of stuff. All right. Now there are other ways to earn big money. Here, for example, is an ad that says, make your reservation for a place among the leaders in the coming era of prosperity. How about that? It says, just growth and development is just around the corner. Just mail the coupon. You can take correspondence courses in structural engineering. Imagine learning your structural engineering by correspondence. I bet that was what happened. That bridge in West Virginia fell down here a couple of weeks ago. You know? Well, I don't make the news, friends. I'm only giving it to you here. But apparently a lot of people felt they could do that. Now here, for example, can you imagine a guy taking industrial metallurgy, a 12-week course by mail? Industrial metallurgy? Good God. Oh, here's one here for management of inventions you could take. Management of inventions. See, a lot of guys figure they don't know how to invent anything. You know, it takes a certain amount. You can't take a correspondence course in inventing stuff. I mean, so a lot of guys apparently in those days. Did I ever tell you about the guy that? Of course, this was a common character. Have you ever looked on late night movies on Channel 5? Edgar Kennedy shows up. Well, Edgar Kennedy was the shorts that he made, while not, you know, nobody ever talks about them. Nobody ever mentions that they're as good as Laurel and Hardy or they're as good as Charlie Chaplin, anybody else. They just were Edgar Kennedy shorts. But if you look at Edgar Kennedy shorts, you see a curious reflection, really a curious and very accurate reflection of the time that they were made. These were made, according to film histories, right in the heart of the Depression. And if you watch it, Edgar Kennedy is always out of work, and he's always having, and his brother-in-law's living with him, and his sister's living. Her hair is always up in curlers, and the brother-in-law's a slob, and he's always going down and getting his relief check, and and I saw one time when it shows Edgar Kennedy coming. He's the only one that's working in the whole house, and he's coming home and he's looking real tired. And he's sweating, and he's got his lunch box, and you don't know what kind of a hellish job he must have, but he's coming up to the little house, you know. Oh, God, what a day. Oh, what a day. Oh, how wonderful to get back to my little nest and my little family. And he goes struggling up the back porch, and he opens the door, and you see in the kitchen, now he's in the kitchen, you see a whole pile of dishes, and the sink is dripping. He looks around, and you see all the table. The table is covered with what looks like breadcrumbs and crusts of bread, and the dishes are still there from breakfast. You see pieces of bacon, and the place looks terrible, you know. And he walks in, he looks real depressed for a second. And he says, "Sweetie Pie, Sweetie." He always called her Sweetie Pie. What a bad accent. "Sweetie Pie." And she says, "What do you want?" You hear her coming out of the next room. He says, "I'm home, Sweetie Pie. Will you stop making all that noise?" Well, all right. He puts his lunchbox down. He goes into the next room. And there is his wife with her hair still up in curlers. He says, "I'm home, Sweetie Pie." She says, "Go out and help Junior in the back. He's busy." He says, "He's got a job?" She says, "No, he's building a kayak." He says, "What?" She says, "He's building a kayak. He bought a kayak kit with his relief money." He says, "He bought a kayak kit with his relief money? When I paid the rent on his house, all I can do is to buy bread and keep us together. And Junior bought a oh!" And he runs out. And you see Junior out there, out in the back by the garage. He's got a kayak, and he's got it half built. Did you see that one? It's a great one. Well, anyway, looking at these sad ads of people sending in these obviously with great hopes, clutching at straws, sending in the coupon to earn big money as an industrial metallurgist in 12 weeks. I mean, doesn't it sound sad to you? I mean, is it as sad to you as it is to me? Listen what you can take. For example, look, send me full particulars about the following course, which I can complete in 12 weeks in my spare time at home. Electrical engineering. Friends, I don't know whether you've ever taken any pre-engineering courses. Electrical engineering, it takes you 12 weeks to learn how to solder, much less work out a little few Kirchhoff law problems. Here's one. Learn tool and die making and tool design. That's an exciting course. Here's another one here. Public speaking before large gatherings. How's that for the dream world? Some poor schlep, you know, living in Queens. He takes a 12-week course in public speaking before large gatherings. Can't you see how the first lesson starts out? It says, stand on your 2 feet. Stand up and be counted. Stand up and look your audience right in the eye. In fact, stand before a full-length mirror and practice the following speech. To be or not to be. That is the... Oh, wow. Here's another one you can take. Oh, here's kind of a good one. I like this one. This in 12 weeks, you can learn airplane drafting and design. Well, you know, that was an extensive course in aircraft in 1933. I imagine more than one guy flew through the high-tension wires with the airplane that his cousin Clifford designed. However, after his 12 weeks, here's another one. There's a lot of great things that you wouldn't believe. For example, here's one. These are, here you can take a 12-week, would you believe it, a 12-week course, this was 1933, in plastics. They don't say what you did, it just says plastics. You could send in for this one. And of course, it says all these jobs have fantastic, unlimited futures. For example, you can take a 12-week course in railroad switchman. Now, there's an unlimited future for you. And here's one in radio telegraphy. 12 weeks. Get yourself. It says learn radio announcing in 12 weeks. I mean, you know, some guy sitting there listening to Graham McNamee one day says, "Hey, Marge, How come, how come this guy's on the radio and I ain't on the radio? I can talk good. And she says, well, he's educated, Clarence. Must have taken a course. Yeah, it says right here in the magazine. I could take a radio announcing course in 12 weeks. And there's unlimited opportunities. Unlimited opportunities. All one has to do is fill in the coupon, and you will be insured a job because of our job placement bureau. Our job placement bureau will place you immediately in any available opening. Only 12 weeks to be a radio announcer like Ted Using. So, friends, when you begin to see this kind of thing appearing in your favorite magazine, like Reader's Digest, for example, TV Guide would be more proper today. It says, stop just looking at television all day long like a klutz since you're out of work. Stop sitting around there with your mouth hanging open, hoping that you can get on the Hollywood squares when you'll never get on it. Earn big money repairing television sets in your neighborhood. Your friends have got TV sets that flicker and buzz and hum. You can earn up to $12 a month in your spare time. Yes, you'll know then that it's beginning to settle down in earnest. What am I laughing at? This is sent to you as a public service for those of you who, are a little bit... here's another tremendous opportunity here, friends. Yes, it says... No, you won't want to do that. It says you can earn big money selling skin cream door to door. It says violet scented skin cream guaranteed to cure acne, scabies. Do they still have scabies? It says why even your friends will keep you in business. Probably if you have a lot of friends with scabies, that's probably true. Here's one here. It says earn big money taking your friend's blood pressure. It says, yes, it says a blood pressure machine. I'm not kidding her. You could buy a correspondence course in taking blood pressure. Here's one. It says, why put up years of endless worry being out of work? Sell our, yes, it says our rupture pads. I sell door to door. Oh,